Shalom, I am Rabbi Ezra Melech. Many people stay busy for years and feel that nothing in their life is actually moving forward. Their days are full, their schedules are packed, their energy is spent, yet the results never change. This is not because they lack effort. It is because a governing structural law is being violated. Imagine running on a treadmill at full speed. Your legs burn, your breath shortens, you are exhausted, yet the wall in front of you never moves. Let me ask you directly, how long have you been busy without building anything that lasts? Stay with me, because once you see why busyness does not produce change, you will stop exhausting yourself and start moving forward. I have spent decades studying the patterns within Torah, observing how they manifest in the daily experiences of work habits, family dynamics, responsibility, and the management of resources. This is not about motivation or productivity techniques. What I have witnessed repeatedly is that certain patterns emerge regardless of individual effort or intention. People can maintain identical levels of energy and commitment, yet their outcomes differ dramatically. Some individuals create lasting change, while others remain trapped in cycles of activity that produce no meaningful advancement. This disparity cannot be explained by willpower alone. Movement is not progress unless it is structured. The foundation of this understanding rests on a simple observation. Busyness feels productive, but often changes nothing. When you examine your daily activities closely, you may discover that effort without direction multiplies fatigue rather than results. Constant activity can actually hide the absence of proper structure, creating an illusion of progress while keeping you stationary. Think carefully about this principle. Change requires structure, not constant motion. This concept appears throughout Torah as a fundamental pattern. Sequence precedes action. Order precedes labor. Design precedes building. These are not suggestions or philosophical ideas. They are structural laws that govern how progress occurs. Do you recognize yourself in this pattern, being constantly active, yet never arriving anywhere? Where are you constantly active with no lasting result? Consider your current situation honestly. Are there areas of your life where you invest significant energy but see minimal advancement? This is not a failure of effort. It is an indication that structure is missing from your approach. What would happen if you stopped doing more and built order first? This question challenges the common assumption that increased activity leads to increased results. Often, the opposite proves true. Reduced activity combined with proper structure produces more substantial outcomes than endless motion without direction. Several years ago, I encountered a man who approached me after a weekly discussion. He explained his frustration with great detail. Every morning he would wake before dawn to review his lengthy task list. His days were completely filled with meetings, calls, emails, and various obligations. He worked late into the evening and often brought materials home to continue his efforts. His schedule had no empty spaces. Yet despite this intense activity, his financial situation remained unchanged. His relationship showed no improvement. His health was declining. His sense of purpose felt increasingly unclear. He described feeling like he was trapped in quicksand. The harder he worked, the deeper he seemed to sink. I asked him a simple question. Can you describe the structure that guides your daily decisions? He paused for a long moment, then admitted he had none. His activities were responses to immediate demands, urgent requests, and whatever seemed most pressing at any given moment. He was extremely busy, but his busyness lacked any organizing principle. We spent time examining his actual priorities versus his daily actions. The disconnect was striking. Most of his energy went toward activities that had no connection to his stated goals. He was working harder than most people, but his efforts were scattered across too many directions to create meaningful momentum in any single area. Over the following months, he simplified his approach dramatically. Instead of trying to address every demand immediately, he established clear criteria for decision-making. He reduced his commitments but ensured that his remaining activities aligned with his actual objectives. His days became less packed but more purposeful. The change was gradual but unmistakable. His finances began improving because he focused his attention on activities that generated income rather than simply staying busy. His relationships strengthened because he allocated specific time for meaningful interactions instead of rushing through conversations. His health improved because he built consistent practices into his routine rather than hoping to find time for wellness. That was when I understood. Effort was present, but direction was missing. This experience illustrates why busyness fails to produce change. Busyness creates noise, and noise hides disorder. When your days are completely filled with activity, you cannot see the patterns clearly enough to recognize what is working and what is not. Activity without order prevents the clarity necessary for making effective adjustments. Consider the difference between activity and alignment. Activity refers to motion, energy expenditure, and visible effort. Alignment refers to the relationship between your actions and your intended outcomes. You can have tremendous activity without any alignment, which explains why some people work extremely hard yet see minimal results. Motion differs from direction. Motion is movement in any direction, including circles. Direction is movement toward a specific destination. Many people confuse motion with progress, assuming that if they are moving, they must be advancing. This assumption leads to exhaustion without achievement. Urgency differs from purpose. Urgency creates pressure to act immediately, regardless of whether the action serves your broader objectives. Purpose provides criteria for determining which actions deserve your attention and which can be ignored or delegated. Operating from urgency keeps you reactive. Operating from purpose allows you to be selective. Think of a garden that receives abundant water, sunlight, and attention, yet produces no harvest. The problem is not insufficient care. The issue is that seeds were scattered randomly across unprepared soil without consideration for spacing, timing, or compatibility. The energy was present, but the structure was absent. In your life, scattered effort produces scattered results. Concentrated effort, properly directed, produces concentrated results. This principle applies whether you are building a business, developing relationships, improving your health, or pursuing any other meaningful goal. Structure serves as the foundation that makes change possible. Structure filters effort by providing criteria for determining which activities deserve your attention. Without these filters, you will respond to every demand equally, which dilutes your impact across too many areas. Structure creates leverage by allowing small actions to produce disproportionate results. When your efforts align with proper structure, each action builds upon previous actions, creating compound effects over time. Without structure, each action stands alone, requiring you to restart constantly. Structure makes small actions meaningful by connecting them to larger patterns. Individual activities may seem insignificant when viewed in isolation, but they gain importance when they contribute to a coherent system. This connection between small actions and larger purposes provides motivation that sustains effort through difficult periods. Structure turns time into progress. Time alone does not create advancement. You can spend years on activities that produce no meaningful change. However, when time is organized according to proper structure, each period of effort contributes to cumulative advancement. The same amount of time, properly structured, yields dramatically different results. This leads to an important shift in how you understand yourself and your relationship to productivity. Busy people feel rushed because they are constantly responding to external demands without clear internal priorities. This reactive approach creates a sense of being pulled in multiple directions simultaneously, which generates stress and fatigue. Structured people feel calm because they have established criteria for decision-making that allows them to respond selectively rather than reactively. They can ignore urgent but unimportant demands without guilt because they understand how those demands relate to their actual priorities. Order creates confidence because it provides predictable frameworks for handling various situations. When you know how to evaluate opportunities, make decisions, and organize your time, you approach challenges with greater certainty. This confidence is not based on positive thinking, but on proven systems that have demonstrated their effectiveness. Clarity creates peace because it eliminates the constant uncertainty about whether you are making the right choices. When your priorities are clear and your structure is solid, you can pursue your activities with focus rather than second-guessing your decisions continuously. A disciplined life is not full, it is clear. This distinction challenges the common assumption that discipline requires doing more. True discipline often involves doing less, but ensuring that what you do serves your actual objectives rather than simply keeping you busy. Many people resist structure because they associate it with rigidity or limitation. They prefer the feeling of spontaneity and keeping their options open. However, this preference often leads to decision fatigue and scattered effort. Structure actually increases your freedom by creating systems that handle routine decisions automatically, leaving your mental energy available for more important choices. Structure also provides stability during uncertain periods. When external circumstances change rapidly, having internal structure allows you to maintain progress even when your environment becomes unpredictable. The structure serves as an anchor that keeps you oriented toward your objectives regardless of temporary disruptions. This understanding applies to every area of life. In financial matters, structure means having clear criteria for spending, saving, and investing rather than making emotional decisions based on immediate feelings. In relationships, structure means establishing consistent patterns of communication and attention rather than hoping that good intentions will automatically produce good outcomes. In health, structure means building sustainable practices into your routine rather than relying on periodic bursts of motivation. The transition from busyness to structure requires patience because the benefits are not always immediately visible. Busyness provides immediate feedback. You feel productive because you are constantly active. Structure provides delayed feedback. You may feel less busy initially, but your results improve over time. If nothing meaningful has changed in your life over the last year, what does this explain? This delay can create doubt about whether the structured approach is working. During this period, it is important to measure progress differently. Instead of measuring activity levels, measure alignment between your actions and objectives. Instead of counting tasks completed, evaluate whether your completed tasks contribute to meaningful advancement. The process begins with honest assessment of your current situation. Examine your typical day and identify which activities produce lasting value versus which activities simply consume time. This examination often reveals that a significant portion of daily effort goes toward activities that have no connection to your stated priorities. Next, establish clear criteria for evaluating opportunities and demands. These criteria serve as filters that help you determine which requests deserve your attention and which can be declined or delegated. Without these filters, you will continue responding to every demand equally, which prevents focused progress. Then, design systems that automate routine decisions and reduce decision fatigue. The goal is to minimize the mental energy required for predictable choices so that your best thinking can be applied to important decisions that actually require careful consideration. Finally, build regular review periods into your routine to assess whether your structure is producing the intended results. Structure is not static. It should be adjusted based on what you learn through experience. However, these adjustments should be made thoughtfully rather than constantly changing your approach based on momentary frustrations. Let me summarize what we have discussed. Busyness is not the enemy of progress. Lack of structure is. Many people exhaust themselves with constant activity that produces no lasting change because their effort is not properly organized. Order precedes meaningful advancement. When you establish proper structure first, your subsequent efforts become far more effective. Change requires structure, not constant motion. This principle applies regardless of what you are trying to accomplish. Whether you seek financial improvement, better relationships, enhanced health, or any other goal, the pattern remains consistent. Scattered effort produces scattered results. Concentrated effort properly directed through sound structure produces concentrated results. The shift from busyness to structure may initially feel uncomfortable because it requires saying no to activities that seem urgent but do not serve your actual priorities. However, this temporary discomfort leads to long-term clarity and effectiveness that makes the transition worthwhile. If this brought clarity to your thinking, I invite you to subscribe, not for motivation, but for understanding, structure, and peace. This video is educational and reflective in nature. It is not financial, legal, or investment advice. Life does not reward motion. It responds to order.